Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to this month's edition of Bincom ICT Career Talk. Please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you.
See, I am having kind of network issue from my end. Please confirm you can hear me now.
I
I
can hear
can
you,
hear
sir.
you. I can hear
Okay.
you.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, that's great. So good afternoon once again, and you're welcome to this month's edition of the Bincom ICT Career Talk, themed applying technology to real world challenges. We have our speakers section now, and I'll be introducing the first speaker, and then she would go ahead with the whole presentation. So thank you for taking your time to join us. It's really appreciated. So our first speaker today is Mrs. Cynthia Alabi, and she's a business development and customer experience leader with over 10 years of driving revenue growth, market expansion, and CX customer experience transformation across various sectors. She has held key roles at Eric Air, Uber Technologies, and currently leads customer experience at Transact World Digital. At Uber, Cynthia led strategic initiatives that led to multi-million dollar B2B deals and a 65% growth in the customer base, earning her the EMEA Rookie of the Year award. She blends a data-driven approach with cross-functional leadership to scale growth and enhance customer outcomes. She's a passionate contributor to Africa's tech ecosystem. Cynthia shares insights and mentor rising talent through her platform, You Be the Girl, Your Be the Girl, and communities like Rework. She is also a frequent speaker at industry events. In 2024, she was recognized as Tech No-Code Professional of the Year by WITS and just recently listed as a top 25 revenue growth leader. So, Miss Cynthia, you are welcome, and we appreciate you taking your time to join us for you to give your to share insights on the theme of this event. So, thank you once again, and please, um, you can proceed with your presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Thanks. And hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the introduction. I'm particularly excited about what Beacon has asked to speak about today, which is how we apply technology to real life challenges or real world challenges. I'll just share my screen and we can go from there. Okay, so applying technology to real world challenges. And a few things I'll just be talking about today is why do we even need to apply tech to real life matters? What technology actually means, because I do not want to assume that everyone knows. There might be some misinformation about or assumptions about like what technology is. And we will look at a few case studies, and more importantly is the role all of us in this room can play in terms of using technology to solve real life matters, some of which would be looking at career paths that we can look at in making this happen. And I'll just share a bit about how we can start and would have our wrap up. Okay, so why do we need to apply technology to real life? Or should I maybe start from what technology really means? Because I think it's better to start from like what technology means, and then we can go to why we need to apply it to real life matters. A lot of people think that technology is about coding, it's about with the new buzz AI. So once we hear AI coding, that's what the average person thinks technology is. However, today I would like to say to you, technology is not all about coding. It's definitely more than coding. It's any tool or system that can help people do things faster, do things cheaper, do things better, or even safer. So, with this explanation that I've given, and I'm sorry, I would also like for this session to be quite interactive. So, with these examples that I've given, it would be nice to see some of us just drop on the chat what technology comes to mind. So, understanding that technology is any tool or system that makes help people to do things better, faster, cheaper. Can you just drop on the chat, right? Examples of technologies that come to mind. Unfortunately, I'm one of those speakers that like exactly word processor. Thank you, Samuel. Yes. I'd like to see more examples, guys, please. A kitchen blender. Yeah, that's a form of technology because it's now made us move from the days of mortar and grinding stone to now like making cooking easier. Generative AI models. Thank you, Kristen. Okay. I'd like to hear from others, but I'll then move on. So now that we've understood what technology really means, I would go back a step, which is why do we need to apply technology to real life? Understanding that it's anything that makes life better and easier, it means that from the examples that we've given, for instance, there's an example of word processor, which makes people's life easier at work. There's the kitchen blender example, makes life easier even at home. We have realized now that it's something that is now in every sphere of life. At home, in our finances, transportation, the health industry, everywhere we turn, right? There's some form of improvement, technology. I remember the days where we used to have to go borrow a video cassette from a club, a video club at that time, or a vendor, and then would have to watch quickly and return before we can get another one. But now, from the comfort of our house, we can go on YouTube. In fact, this is also streaming live on YouTube, right? And we can learn more, see things, have a variety of entertainment, right? And it means that technology is everywhere we look at. And it means that that's the only way that we can improve our well-being, our life. And so I would say that that's the reason why we need to keep applying it in real life. Recently, we've moved from, and I don't know if it's because of like the influx that we've had of everybody wanting to like tech. We are now seeing that a lot more of what's being built, right, has moved away from solving real life challenges, but and then just dealing with business as usual things, a nice to have, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm happy that we're discussing the fact that we need to go back to understanding what technology is and knowing that it was set out, or it sets out to make life better. And whatever we can do to ensure that that's what technology is doing, we should stay on them. Another thing is it's here to stay. And because it's here to stay, we need to determine how we're going to be using it, right? And we've already established with our examples that it can actually solve real problems. So let's use it for what it is. So briefly, right, I'm going to talk about myself and how this topic relates to me. So today, in my role, I help build payment products. And what's at the back of my head is building a product that is working, not just a nice to have, but a product that real people and real businesses can use. What I do every day sits at the intersection of the software, which is a technology, the business that I work for, which is also ensuring that we sustain. Sorry, please, just a minute. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's perfectly
All
fine.
right, that's fine.
I'm a daddy here, so I expect I expect those kinds of interruptions from time to time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's perfect.
what I do every day sits in between the technology that we have built, the people that need to use it, and even my company, ensuring that it's profitable so that we can remain in business to continue to solve the problem that we solve today. Now, when I first started my career, from the introduction, you could hear, I started off with the aviation industry in Arik Air. I didn't set out to work in technology. However, I wanted to solve problems. While I was at Arik, I already had a business and customer service background, but I really wanted to solve real life issues and things that solve issues at scale. So it was exciting when I got the offer from Uber. And just seeing, at that time, Uber just started, seeing how we moved from the yellow taxis. In fact, early this morning on my way to the stadium for sports, I was telling someone how Google Maps has made life easy for us. I remember how we were forced to use those yellow taxis and babas because they were the ones that knew everywhere in Lagos. So if you wanted to go out, you needed to. But Uber came, and then just seeing how they were able to use that simple system to organize the chaos of having to walk down to the bus stop, or every time you take a yellow taxi, collect the baba's number and then book him ahead, and sometimes he might even disappoint you, right? Made me feel, yes, I'm working in a place where I can actually solve problems. Now, even in the fintech industry, I'm also thinking about whatever we're doing, how can we use it in solving problems? Now, we have a lot of small businesses that are online, and then a lot of times collecting their payments has been a bit restricted. And then we had payment processing companies come in to say, you know what, if you set up your website, you can have people pay you with cards, right? Not only bank transfers. And we can integrate everything in such a way that you have that website where you can showcase your product, but also collect your money. Now, that has solved a lot of problems for businesses. Another problem that solved was giving the opportunity for a business, for instance, I would say Vicky James, to be able to now sell her product not only in Nigeria, but to people abroad. She can now scale on a global level and earn in foreign currency. That problem of financial restriction or being restricted, your business restricted to local operations, has been solved. And that's how payment companies have been able to solve the problem, a real world problem, with technology. Now, like I said earlier, we have people thinking, oh, technology is coding. And so I don't think I have a head for coding as such. Maybe I shouldn't even be bothered with thinking about tech. Let me find something else that I can do. And that's why I decided to share my story. I'm from a business background. My coding or knowledge of coding is very basic. I've had to improve over time because sometimes I work with engineers, and a lot of them, it's important that you're on the same level with them. Else, sometimes they give you like some excuses why certain things cannot roll out at certain times or are not doable. So, with experience, I've had to scale. But I didn't start off having any idea about coding, right? And so that's something that I want us to take note of as we talk about using technology to solve real life problem. I think I'll just look at a few case studies, right? I already talked about like the payments and financial inclusion. The problem, apart from the businesses being restricted, there was also like the problem of carrying bulk cash around. It was risky, even in terms of like transactions monitoring, right? You would have to collect cash, write it in a register, no proper bookkeeping. We've also had technology improve bookkeeping. And then there was a struggle with digital payments. And now technology has come with the payment links. mobile apps, USSD, even POS, right? And now we can see the impact. Like I gave the example of Vicky James. There's access to global markets. You have better records. People can pick things quickly online and check out. You don't have to always go physically to do things. Another case study I'll give quickly is customer experience. And just because I'm in customer experience, I decided to pick this particular one. Now, there's a real life problem of, and I'm sure everybody in this room has been a customer to a business or any brand at one point in our lives. And there are times where you had an issue with the brand and you needed to complain. And more frustrating is when you are patronizing a particular brand and you have the same complaint over and over again. And it almost looks like, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere else because these people don't care about me. I think that was a struggle way back for a lot of businesses. There was no easy way for them to track their customer complaints and even respond to them. And as such, a lot of businesses were losing customers. What was technology's solution? They've now created like ticketing systems, right? Where you have a platform, an email, people can now reach out to you, send their complaint via email. That dashboard is helping you with data, analyzing, okay, these are the top issues my customers are complaining about. What do I need to change in my business to solve this problem? Somebody sends me an email, I can reply to them immediately. I can even set up an automated response if I don't have enough resources to reply to them immediately. And at the end of the day, a lot more customers are satisfied. Yes, I'm sure some people will say, I still get unsatisfied with some brands. It's still work in progress because certain businesses still need to learn that behind the technology, there's also the part of empathy and human relations that come in. But we're definitely not where we used to be in terms of customer experience. There's faster resolution. More businesses have saved more money by just being able to have a centralized place where the complaints can come to, they can respond quicker, they can resolve quicker, and being able to analyze that data to even make business changes. Now, I think the next thing is, what role can you play? Because enough has been said about what technology is, what technology can do, how we've looked at a few use cases, how technology has improved lives. And so I think it'll be nice for us to then see how you can actually join in ensuring that technology can solve more problems. Now, I'm going to start from the part of building. Ordinarily, I wanted to take out this slide when I was putting together the slide. But I thought, you know what? Not everybody is going to be a worker or an entrepreneur. There might be some entrepreneurs in this room. And so I decided to keep this, right? You could solve this or you can play a role by building. However, not just building, like I said earlier on, we have now started seeing people just build fancy products that are not solving real issues. So they experience an issue that's unique to them because they have the capacity, they decide to build something for it. And then you see a lot of adverts, them trying to push these things to the market for people to adopt. And then they start giving you a story of a problem. We actually have problems that are looking at us in the face that we can start building technology for. And so the way I would say, if you're a builder or you're someone who has the capacity to build, financial, the experience, the role you would play in ensuring or applying technology to real life situations would be following the framework that I have here. One, observing what is actually frustrating people, because that's what people are challenged with. That's the real problem. Once you can observe what is really frustrating people, you can now describe the problem clearly. Take some time to understand the problem behind these frustrations and write it out. Then you can start thinking around possible solutions. So you design this, sketch out, okay, there's an example that comes to mind with the hand fans that people carry now. We see weddings on Saturdays, you see people like brides, they're always like sweaty because of the movement. And somebody thought about, okay, maybe we can create something smaller that's mobile that they can use, right? And I'm sure there would have been different designs. Somebody has to say, okay, this is the problem. I'm thinking about it, a fan that can be carried. What's the easiest way to carry that fan? Maybe I should create like an handle that the person can hold firmly. All of that designing helps you to ensure that the solution that you're bringing would actually solve that problem. And then you can now start probably using technology tools to create something not so big, small, test out, something that if there's an issue with, you can easily go back so that you don't invest so much in it. And then at the end of the day, it's like money gone down the drain because that's an issue with that particular solution. And then after building, you can start trying it out because you've observed the people that these problems or that have these problems. You could easily give them this thing you've built to test it, gather feedback, because again, we can't know it all. And from the feedback, you want to improve what you have created. And the thing about technology is when you create today and think, oh, I solved the problem, and you don't continue to work on it, it will become outdated because we're growing very fast. Things are evolving every day. The problems we had yesterday, some of them are still here today, but we also have new problems today. So, for instance, before AI came, I'm not sure we had like some of the problems that AI poses today. Now there's an increased number of fraud and the need for people to be aware, data conscious, right? Because with AI, little data or little information people have with you, it can be used to get more information about you, and there's no limit to what can happen. People have become a lot more creative. So I always say that problems will continue to evolve. And as a builder, it's important that you move with it so that you're ensuring that what you have built does not become outdated. Now, maybe for the majority in the room today who would not be building, you can still play a role in using technology. And that's by the career path that you decide to take. If you want to be technical, then yes, you can become a software developer, a data analyst, maybe go into DevOps. However, there are also like non-technical roles, like I mentioned. I'm a customer experience person, and that's in customer and business angle of using technology to solve problems. So you can be non-technical and maybe get involved in product management, product design, or if you're focused on the business side, you can be a sales engineer or even a sales associate, where pretty much your work is to push this product, tell people about this solution that your company or the business has made that can solve their problem. Or customer experience, where we pretty much are taking feedback and using it to improve the solution that we have out there. There's also digital marketing that allows you to be able to create content, create a way of making people see, create awareness around this technology. And then there are business analysts. I will just go quickly because I highlighted some and talk about them. The first here is product management. So pretty much what a product manager would do is plan and guide the development and delivery of products from the idea and the inception to when it launches into the market, right? And what the day-to-day of a product manager's life would be is interacting with the users, people who are using this product, to get feedback from them, collaborating with the designers, the engineers, the salespeople, the marketing guys, to ensure that they're speaking with one voice and what they're building is actually solving the problem that it sets out to. And then overall, monitor the product growth. So ensuring that, okay, is there a reason why, from the feedback, why we're not growing? We launched this product and we were thinking 1 million people had this problem. But since we launched, we only have 1,000 people who have signed up. From this 1,000 people, let me hear their feedback. Is it that we haven't quite solved the problem that we thought we set out to? And then they monitor, okay, if we're not growing at the rate, what do we need to change? Now, the product manager role is perfect for people who are strategic thinkers, people who love solving problems, and people who like to create value. So if you're someone like that in the room, that's a role that you can get involved in and you can help apply technology to real life problems. Other skills that a product manager would need would be communication, good decision making skills, like I said, getting feedback and making decisions of those feedback so that the product can grow, ability to research, strategy, and then also like management skills. You need to also be a good manager, and some of the tools that they would use. So for people in the room who are trying to also kind of like play around with things and understand, okay, what can I, some of the tools that are used are like Notion, Trello, Miro, Jira, Visio. Another way that you can also help to apply technology to real life situation would be in the role of a product designer. A little different from a product manager, the work of the product designer is to actually design the layout, the structure in which the app or the website will work. So when you come into a website and you see all of that interface, that's something that a designer has done, right? The designer is the one that says, oh, okay, it's better to put the yes button at the right because people always look at their right first and then put the no button on the left because most people think towards the right, and to avoid them saying no to you, let me put it on the left hand side so that we get less no's than yes. So that's like how the product designer tries to create these designs and layouts, the beautiful idea that's been thought about, helps to make it look visually appealing, help to make it user friendly, because again with technology you don't want to complicate things, you're solving a problem. And you don't want to create another problem while trying to solve one problem, right? So the day-to-day again would be doing user research, designing the user flow, creating prototypes, and then just monitoring the user experience to ensure that they are making corrections and getting more people to adopt this solution that has been made. It's perfect for people who are creative problem solvers. Now, not just problem solvers, but you're creative. And then people who enjoy designing and also enjoy user experience. Some of the tools are Canva. I know a lot of people use Canva these days, even for like their personal stuff. There's Figma and then there's FigJam. I would quickly look at customer experience, and I will always slot in customer experience. I'm a bit biased there. Um, Pretty much is ensuring that the customers get what they want, the desired outcomes, while the reason why somebody got a product, ensuring that they get that value, ensuring that they get that service is pretty much the role of a customer experience person. And the day to day ranges from the point of onboarding, ensuring that the customers get the proper training, they understand the products, to the point of addressing their concerns, ensuring that they get resolution to the problems that they've raised, and monitoring the customer satisfaction. Because that's the only way that whatever solution that you have raised stays generating revenue. Now, there's always the financial part to technology. A technology that can solve a problem, but if the business that has created that technology does not make enough revenue from it, it might not be sustained. And that's where like the customer experience person comes handy, ensuring that you're also taking feedback from the customers to create a better product, to solve their problems. Let me put it that way. It's perfect for people who are empathetic and love to solve problems. You see something that's common to almost all the roles that I've spoken about. It needs problem solvers. It needs people who have the mindset that I'm not just coming here to do a job. I'm coming here to solve people's problem. Other skills would be communication and then active listening. Some of the tools would be CRM tools like Salesforce, HubSpot, and then ticketing tools like Zohodex and FreshDex. There are a lot of them right now. And even now, we see that it's gone a step further with AI coming in, where customer experience, you now want to automate a lot of things to make your customers get quicker response. There's a bit of chicken and egg situation there, where I also think that in a bid to automate things, some people have also gotten it wrong with leaving out the human touch of things. But I know that's something that has started coming up, and people are already thinking of how can we solve this problem? How can we train these AI models to be able to read emotions and be able to respond in such a way that they don't further frustrate customers? Digital marketing, pretty much promoting the products and services that have been created. So we've created a product to solve problems, but if people don't know about it, then we've not really solved the problems, right? So creating awareness for this product, and their day to day would be researching trends, executing campaigns, creating those awareness contents, and then doing reviews to see how all of these contents are performing. Are they reaching the right audience? It's perfect for people who are creative thinkers and people who are clear communicators. um, I don't know if anyone in this room has seen an ad and you're wondering, I know this product, but this is not what it does. That's why it's good that you have to be a clear communicator as a digital marketing person, so that you're passing the right message across in your content or your campaigns. Other skills will be copywriting, research, data analysis, and some of the tools they use are Canva, Apollo, MailChimp, Google Analytics, Oja, for those that do like A/B testing. Now, it's how do we get started? I've mentioned a lot of things today. I've mentioned a couple of ways that you can join to apply technology to real world situations. And I think it's by one, exploring some of the roles I've mentioned. There are a lot of other roles, to be honest. And just looking at one or two, sometimes I think that's another thing people do. They make a mistake of trying so many things. Just pick one or two roles that you think speak to your personality or excites you. Learn more about it, go on YouTube and see what it actually entails. And then get like hands-on training. Thanks for people like Bincom that are putting together like training and educating people. Get the hands-on training. Also, kind of identify people who are in this field, experts that whatever you have learned, you can also see what they're doing. Right? Go on LinkedIn. Some of us are on Twitter or social media. Go there, follow these people, and then also like learn from them. And then join communities. You can join like beginner friendly communities are that have a goal to change things, a goal to solve problems, right? So I think these are like simple steps that we can take today. Before I look at the wrap up, something I try to do is also just ask, because I've been speaking for some time now, if anything comes to mind, right? As you've listened to me, is there anything that comes to mind or that hits you? Because I have my things I've noted as my own takeaway and my wrap up, but I'd like to hear from you. Is there any takeaway from your own end in terms of applying technology to real world situation? I'd just like us to put it in the chats. Should I call names? Can we hear me?
Yes, I can hear you from my.
Yes,
I
we
can
can
hear you.
hear you.
All right, guys. Technology is more than coding. Thank you, Samuel. Any other person wants to share like what they've learned in terms of technology and real life challenges, solving real life challenges? Maybe even tell me how you now plan to use technology to solve problems that are around you. Thank you, Idima. Yes, it's important to think of, observe, how does it solve problems for the real life users? All right, guys. So I think I'll just do my wrap up. One thing we know for sure is technology is here to stay. The other thing is, whilst we're building and in whatever we're doing, let's observe. Let's be sure that what we're building is solving a problem. Let's define what the problem is, and let's design with that solution in mind. We then build, let's test that it's actually solving that problem, and we should have the mindset to keep improving. And finally, like I said, you do not need to know how to code before you can solve real world challenges with technology. And you can do that today by any of the other roles that I've mentioned. today, either by being a product manager, a product designer, a sales engineer, in whatever role that you're in, right? You can actually help solve real world challenges using technology. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Cynthia, for that
Thank
awesome
you.
presentation. Yeah, I actually learned something from what you said. Though quite a number of years, I do think years ago, I do think technology just revolves around like those guys in the Python or the track or the DevOps. Yeah. Or I later came to certain that yeah, it's not just about the coding aspect, but even things like marketing, like technology works there perfectly. So yes, thank you so much for that some presentation. I really appreciate. Um, I don't know. I was informed you would not be staying long on this section. Like, would you be staying long?
No, I wouldn't. I actually have a physical engagement.
Okay, okay. That's fine then. So I would have held it if you still on because I'm sure we have loads of questions for.
Questions. Okay, so what I can do is I'll probably just stay online while I am trying to get to my next stop.
Okay,
And yeah, I'll just stay online, but I'll just be at the background. And then when we get to like the questions part, I will try to
okay.
pick as much as I can.
All right. So that will work. That'll be fine. So thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you so much. All right. So before we move to the next speaker, I would like to share something. Just give me a second. All right. Let's confirm you can all see my screen. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. All right. So before we move on to the next speaker, I would like you to briefly like inform everyone about the host of this program. I'm sure we all know Bincom is the host, and quite a number of us know what or who Bincom is. Bincom Dev Center is a multi-location technological development and solution platform that is available in Nigeria and also overseas, mostly in the UK. So currently we are available mostly virtually and we also have physical locations in Yaba, Ibadan, Kano, Kaduna, Ijebu, Igbo, and some other states in Nigeria. And some of the services we render includes um, the aspect of breeding talents where we have the Bincom Academy, the Bincom Tech Internship, the Tech Apprenticeship Experts, and also the Global Tech. So we have like various services we offer at Bincom, and should in case any one of us is interested in like enjoying or benefiting from these services, I will be dropping the link to our website, and you can do well to visit the website and check in on which you'll be having interest on. So that's that. So let me just move on to the next speaker so we don't take much of time. Um so our next speaker today is Mr. Freeman. Oh, I'm sorry, I won't be able to pronounce that name. Should it be Dugu? So
Dugu.
anyways,
Dugui.
okay, Dugu.
Dugui.
Okay,
Yes.
Dugu. Mr. Freeman Dugu
Yes.
is a project management consultant and a founder of Pro Courses Consulting Limited, which is a firming project management training and consulting services that help organizations and professionals deliver projects more effectively. With over 16 years of experience, he has led and supported multidisciplinary comments across the oil and gas, construction, and infrastructure sectors, integrating planning, execution, and quality management to achieve business goals. Through pro courses, Freeman has supported organizations in building stronger project management systems while also training and mentoring more than 600 professionals who have gone on to achieve professional recognition as project management professionals, PMPs, and deliver value across private and public sectors. He holds multiple certifications from the Project Management Institute, PMI, PMP, PMI/RMP, and PMI ACP, and is a registered engineer with the Council of the Regulation of Engineering, Nigeria, current. Freeman holds a master's degree in subsea engineering from Cranfield University, UK, and a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Hamad University, Nigeria. He is passionate about helping organizations strengthen planning, discipline, execution control, and overall project performance. Wow, that's a bunch from Mr. Freeman. We can all get from this profile that this is like professional. So, Mr. Freeman, you're welcome once again, and thank you for
Yeah.
taking out the time to like join us today and to share your insights. So you can please go ahead and um.
Okay. Thank you very much,
I'm
Douglas.
sorry, please before you proceed, I will be dropping the
Yes.
link to our website. So anyone who like picks an interest, anyone can just go visit the website and then like check it out. All right, so thank you, Mr. Freeman. Please go ahead.
All right, Douglas, thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Okay. All right.
And can you turn your cam too?
Well, it's a little dark,
Okay,
so I'm
that's
not
fine.
sure how valuable that would be. Let me try to turn it on. It's a
Okay.
bit dark. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in a makeshift location, so I'm wondering if
Oh,
when it gets brighter, I'll turn the camera back on. All right.
okay. All
Yeah.
right, no problem.
Okay. So, yeah, you said I can share my screen now. Let's try that. Yeah, the presentation we listened to not too long ago is actually quite similar because the theme, I guess we are speaking about the same theme. So it's not surprising that we would all converge on certain ideas. But yeah, we might be coming at those ideas from slightly different perspectives. The title of my presentation is that the future needs fixers. Why tech alone cannot solve real world problems. All right. Um, yeah. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again. As I've been introduced, my name is Freeman, and yeah, my work is in project management, but I work at the intersection between project management, and technology and real world delivery of actual results of the various endeavors that we participate in. So in this presentation, I want to, challenge the idea that technology on its own can solve problems that we face, because very often in real life, that's usually not the case. You may hear, things like we should build that app, we should launch the platform, deploy the systems, and so on. When you do all of those things, then the magic will happen. But that's usually not how it works in the real life. So today, I want to show how sometimes technology fails and what actually drives success, right? What kinds of thinkers and doers we truly need both now and in the future in order to provide the practical results that we want from the technology. I will anchor my idea around a couple of examples, a couple of technological solutions that failed. But since I understand that this is mostly a tech audience, so I will deliberately avoid the tech examples. I will give examples that are a little bit out of the box, just so that even as tech people, we should see the value of thinking outside the box to an extent. Is that okay, Douglas?
Yes, okay.
All right. So again, the topic is, the future needs fixers, not just developers. All right. So I don't know if you've heard of this. This red line here is called the Maginot Line, right? So after the First World War, Germany was on rampage. Germany nearly conquered most of Europe. They conquered France, conquered, a number of countries. So after the war, Germany was beaten back, obviously. And then France decided never again. They don't want Germany to ever invade them again. So they spent a lot of money building infrastructure, technology. What they built was the cutting edge technology as far as military technology is concerned for that time. They built cutting edge defense systems along the border between France and Germany. All right. So as far as technology was concerned, if Germany ever attempted to invade France again, Germany was definitely going to fail, fantastically. All right. But then when the Second World War came about, what did Germany do? Germany knew about the existence of the fortifications along the border between France and Germany. What did they do? They attacked through Belgium. They went into Belgium, captured Belgium because Belgium didn't have any significant defenses, and then simply strolled into France. They completely bypassed those defense systems. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Whatever technological solutions you come up with need to be in alignment with reality. Don't solve yesterday's problems using today's thinking while ignoring tomorrow's, risk that may come up tomorrow. All right. Tomorrow's reality may make your current technology completely useless. I'm sure you can think, you can Google, you can find technologies right now that that sound like very good ideas at the time they were built. But by the time the future comes by, those technologies are found to be, the realities have changed. You no longer find use in those technologies. I've turned on my camera now, so I don't know if you can see. Can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fine. All right. So yeah, that's one of the ideas I want us to think about as tech people. A second one, something I encountered in a very good book. I think every tech person, everybody here should find this book and read. It's called Small is Beautiful. Sorry, I paused a little to remember it. Small is Beautiful by E.F. Schumacher. Schumacher is Schumacher. E.F. Schumacher, Small is Beautiful, is one of the, it's an economics book, but it's completely around, around technologies that are impactful to people directly. So in the book, you'll find an example. Well, and it's something that we've seen at different scales. If you've ever been to an old town, they'll tell you there used to be a company here, but the company is no longer functional and things like that. The idea is that you may build something very high tech, right? You may build something very high tech, but if you build it in the wrong place where there is limited infrastructure, few trained personnel to run that facility that you've built, there is no local access to spare parts and things like that, then on paper, it may seem like progress, like you've done something, important or impactful, but in reality, it is just a breakdown waiting to happen, right? The plant, may be a monument to complexity, but it might be sitting idle. It will cost a lot more to maintain than it is actually worth to the people who may be using it. So Schumacher called this kind of technology inappropriate technology, right? It may be high tech. So it is not a failure because of failures in technology, but failure in understanding the context within which you're trying to apply that technology. The technology doesn't fit the ground on which it landed upon. All right. So, and this is something, like I said, we find in the tech industry as well. You can go to Google, you find a lot of examples of technologies that were built, but are, inappropriate technologies for their time. It's not like they will not find use later. Maybe in the future, the society might evolve to a level where that technology might find use. But so far, that's not the case. All right. Again, like I said, I'm trying to avoid tech examples. If you Google just now, you'll see a whole lot of them. Some familiar names, some big companies, they've tried things that did not just work. Okay. So the message is that technology doesn't fail because it is weak. It fails because it is misaligned. All right. Now, these examples that I've mentioned, and plus the ones you would find online, the developers made one mistake. They confuse innovation for impact. Innovation doesn't equal impact. We assume that once we build something, it will work. We assume that once we launch a product, it means that product will be used, right? We assume that if you add features, those features automatically add value. Again, that's usually not the case. Access to technology does not mean that there is real change in the world, all right? Building is not solving, launching is not landing. Okay, so the gap between what we build or what we make and what actually works, that's where the real problem is. We need to learn how to close that gap between what we are trying to build and what actually has an impact in the real world. All right? Again, I'll be asking if you're hearing me just so that you know how the internet can be.
Yes. I can hear you
Okay.
loud and clear.
Okay. So if innovation is not enough, what actually makes solutions work? This is where I'm introducing the concept of a fixer, the fixer's triangle, right? 3 elements have to align in order to have that impact. Number 1, people. People, who are the real users of what you want to build? What do they need? What do they fear? Who will resist this change you're trying to bring about? You need to answer these questions. You need to also look at the process. Do we have the right steps to get from this idea to the reality, right? From the conceptual idea that you have to the actual reality. Do we have the processes? Have we planned for the risks, for feedback? What iterations, what are the iterations we may need to play around with in order to arrive at the solution that will be useful? What are the things that may shift in future? For example, the invading force. Will that invade? Are we sure the invading force will come exactly where we predict it will come from? Maybe not. All of these questions need to be asked and answered ahead of time before we get into, deploying resources to build the whatever it is we want to build. And yes, platform matters. Technology matters. So we are not saying technology is not completely important, but we are saying technology cannot stand alone. Having an impact through technology, you need the other legs of the table. You need the people, you need the process as well. All right? Fine. So very often we focus on this platform alone, we focus on the technology alone, and then we realize that it may not work. And this is why I'm saying we need fixers, right? We need fixers in addition to developers. It's fixer mindset, what I call a fixer mindset, someone who's a problem solver. I think this echoes what Cynthia mentioned previously. We need problem solving mentality. It's in problem solving mentality that you would understand what the people need, you would understand the processes you need, and then you would decide how the technology will align with those other 2 elements in order to create the impact that you want. So be a fixer, not just a builder. Be a fixer who fixes specific problems. Okay? Fine. So when I say fixer, what do I mean? A fixer is not just someone who builds, like I've already said. It's someone who gets things to work in the real world. So first, a fixer will frame the problem, that's understand the problem, capture it in a way that reflects the reality, right? Not just what has been asked for. Right? If a client says, I want this, there are certain things that the client may not even know enough to tell you that they need, but they may really need those things. So a fixer mindset asks questions that will bring up those unasked questions from the client side, and then answers can be provided. Okay? If you try to build exactly what a client says, sometimes you get it wrong. I don't know how the level of experience for the audience here, but it's a reality. If you build any kind of solution at all, not just tech solutions, expand it to every other sphere of life, expand it to construction, expand it to oil and gas, even expand it to tailoring. Okay, sometimes if you're a tailor, if you build exactly what the client asks you for, there will be problems because sometimes the clients don't know enough. So they might ask for something that may not work. A fixer mindset is a mindset that we align with the user, the funders. Know that many solutions would not survive without that alignment. Are we there? Douglas?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So again, a fixer mindset knows how to navigate constraints. You know how to navigate time, budget. If it's an environment where you need to deal with egos and stakeholders and some internal politics, a fixer mindset will have to be able to navigate that as well. And also management of resources. A fixer mindset is a mindset that knows how to manage all of these elements that contribute to building a solution. So fixers don't wait for the perfect conditions. They work with what is available, and they keep progress moving. They keep progress moving, and they are willing to adjust. They design for learning, right? Designing for learning means that there will be feedback loops. There should be feedback loops in your entire process, so that whenever there is a slight misalignment at a stakeholder end, you would get that feedback immediately and you will correct that misalignment. Okay? So fixers will not lose sight of reality. They don't lose sight of reality. They don't fall in love with the technology, right? Sometimes developers or technical people, they tend to fall in love with the technology itself. In my case, I've worked with engineers, civil engineers, design engineers, mechanical, and so on. And sometimes they really love the technology, right? They need someone on the team who would connect that technology with the reality. Otherwise, things would fail. Okay, so a fixer mindset is the mindset that doesn't fall in love with the technology. It falls in love with the problem and then tries to solve that problem. Fall in love with problems, not with the technology. Okay, fine. So that's the kind of mindset shift that we need to consider. I have a slide for mindset shifts. Builder mentality versus fixer mentality. Right? Build it and they will come. That's what a builder thinks. Just keep adding features, launch it, and maybe that will lead to success. But no, that's not how it works. Again, on the other hand, you have the fixer mentality, a mentality that is grounded in outcomes. And you cannot be grounded in outcomes if you don't start with the end in mind. Okay? Understand the real need, not assumptions. A lot of failed tech businesses, they failed just because the assumptions that they made were not valid assumptions. Okay, so don't make assumptions. Know exactly what is needed, and know that simplicity and iteration will beat complexity and perfection. All right, keep things simple and keep iterating. Don't try to go complex all at once and try to get it right. That's another angle where things can fail from. All right. Then they understand that launching is not the end. Very often it is when you launch that the journey begins, right? And then they don't assume that users will magically adapt, and this is where the marketing and so on comes in. If you build something that is actually useful, then you need to understand the behavior of the market, understand the behavior of the market, build for the market, not for an ideal customer that you have in your head, but for the real customer on the ground. All right. So at this point, I want to ask a question. If you are to come up with a system for storing information for the next 100,000 years, what would be the best technology? Do it without Googling. Answer me without going to Google or without going to Chat GPT. Yeah. If you are to build a system that will store information for the next 100,000 years, what do you think is the best way to go about it? You can feel free to speak. You don't have to type it in the chat, or if you prefer to type in the chat, that's fine. No answers from anybody? How many of us are here? That's a simple enough question now, guys. Did I name names? Hmm? Christian, Christian David. Can you give a shot? Okay, I take it that nobody is willing to try. I wish someone would try. Will our host try?
Yeah, I was going to say where I know I won't be very specific, but I was going to say
Okay.
something about what Elon Musk is doing with neuro
Oh,
like
Neuralink.
linking, yeah,
Neu
Neuralink, something like that.
Neuralink. Okay. Yeah,
So
that's a
I'm
good
thinking
one.
it's possible like one could like be able to like the next, as you said, next 100,000 years or so, like
Yes.
it technology can come up where one can like be able to store something just like I don't know, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Kristen is asking me to repeat the question. I'm saying the task is that you want to store information for the next 100,000 years. What is the best way to go about it? Storing information for the next 100,000 years. Any piece of information, right? Say you want to store, maybe there is a particular book you like, and you want to make sure that book survives the next 100,000 years. What will you do? All right, let's save time. The best way that we have currently, the best way to store information for that long, currently, right now in the world, is to carve it into stone.
So I
Is
didn't get that. Is to what?
to carve it into stone. Carve it into
Okay.
stone. That's the best, that's the most advanced technology for storing information for the next 100,000 years. Okay. Now, if you have a builder mindset, right, you might have been thinking about, can we store it in the cloud? Can we store things? But then look at the context around it. Look at the context around it. We are not talking about 5 years. We are not talking about 1 year, 10 years, right? All of these technologies you're thinking about right now, they are not guaranteed to even last the next 1,000 years, just 1,000. They're not guaranteed to last the next 1,000 years. Okay. So technology is not always high tech. The best way of doing something with a fixer mindset is not always that high tech thing. Sometimes when you keep things simple, you actually achieve the exact result. Okay. Today, if I want to store information today against tomorrow, against next year, of course, I'll use my hard drive. But that's not what the challenge is. The challenge is to store information for the next 100,000 years. This is where understanding the problem comes in. What does it take to preserve something for 100,000 years? What does it take? And yes, this is something that has actually been researched. It is not just my opinion, it has actually been researched. And it would take just, okay, now by carving into stone, may not be referring to using, chisel and hammer to carve it into stone. You can use laser technology to carve into stone or into some form of glass that is durable. But still, the answer remains carving into something that you think will last a long time. For example, stones or ceramics or some kind of hardened glass. There is no other technology. Okay. So again, understand the context. What your client is asking for might not require that much high tech that you're thinking. It may need something very simple, something already existing. something very practical, something very old also, right? Because as tech people, we are, they call it what? Futuristic. We think that old things are not useful, right? Old things are obsolete and things like that. But when time comes to eat, you still use a spoon. When was spoon invented? When time comes to sit down, you still sit on a chair. When were chairs invented? Right? Some of the best technologies we have today have been around for thousands of years. And they will continue to be around for the next many thousands of years. I know that when tech people talk about technology, right? When tech people talk about technology, they don't look at the other, they only look at, they mostly, not only, they mostly look at coding, what you can do with a computer and so on. I am expanding that idea. Hopefully in your coding, with this understanding of the larger scale that I'm talking about, you can narrow it down to what you do when you code as well. That sometimes the best technology is actually something very simple. Okay. Christian has something in the chat. I would process the information from 1,000 years ago. It's first to talk to historians and gather information. After that, I would store the information, preserve it through a book, web page such as Wikipedia. Wikipedia is online. Our online systems are not even guaranteed to last the next 1,000 years, right? Maybe they might be, if they try, maybe up to 10,000. But then there are various catastrophes that the earth goes through. These are things you think about. Various catastrophes that the earth goes through that some of our technologies today may not survive. I'm sure you've heard about things like solar flares. Solar flares can, fry all our current tech systems, all our databases that we have everywhere. Of course, there are some that are in more protected places, but I think you get the idea. So yeah, let's proceed. Okay, I think I've made that point. What skills does a fixer need? A fixer is someone who actually gets things to work, right? They are the ones who understand the problem first. So like I said, understanding the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you might not find the technologies that fit. Look at our information storage example. We are not storing the information for the next 5 years, but for the next 100,000 years. Understand that problem, and then you can find the technologies that fit. But first things first, according to what we have on the slides, fixers don't just accept the immediate statement. They interrogate the statement of what the client wants, and they get to the heart of what has been said and what has not been said in order to understand better, right? And then there is stakeholder alignment. Most projects don't fail because the code is bad. Most projects don't fail because the developers are inexperienced. Sometimes the project fail because the right people weren't on board. Okay, the right people or the wrong people were ignored, and then a solution was built. And when these people came into the project, they basically said the project was kind of useless. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Christian, for that. What you've said in the chat. Solar flares can indeed disrupt all electromagnetic systems that are not protected from the solar flares. So what some tech companies have done is to put some of their, some of your databases, maybe like Google and so on. I don't know for sure, but I think that some of them have their databases buried deep underground to protect against those kinds of things deep underground. Some have their some are buried in the ocean, deep in the ocean, for advantages of cooling, but then other benefits as well. But anything that is on the surface, if there is a solar flare on the surface, is likely to fry things. There was a solar flare around 120 years ago that disrupted the electronic systems of that time. The fax machines and telegraphs that they had at that time, everything went down. Okay, so you can check that up. If a fixer also understands adaptive planning, right? The plan is important, but the plan should not be sacred. Don't say that you cannot adjust your plan. Your plan is what you came up with in your head on your table, talking to a few persons, but you guys don't represent the totality of reality. So when that plan makes contact with reality, you may need to adjust, and you should have the flexibility for that adjustment. Okay, so fixers plan, and then they pivot whenever there is the need to pivot. And then don't forget risk. All right, fixers look ahead, think of what could go wrong, whether Germany will decide to bypass that line or an attack through a different country and things like that. Where are we fragile? Where is this entire system we're building? What are the fragile points? Let's identify those fragile points and then beef them up, make them stronger. All right. So they build cushions, they build backup systems, they build responses in advance to those risks that they have identified. Right. And then feedback is important. We cannot leave out feedback ever. So a fixer will not just launch and walk away. A fixer will set up learning systems. So there will be surveys, there will be checking with the end users, there will be some form of analytics, so that as the users use the product, you can also keep evolving the same product while the users are using it as well. All right. And finally, you should be able to deliver under constraints. Nobody ever gets any ideal conditions in any delivery endeavor, right? Be it you trying to build a tech solution, be it you trying to build a highway, whatever. There are never any ideal conditions. Fixers, always have to anticipate those less ideal situations and work through them. You need to be resourceful, you need persistence and so on in order to be able to deliver successfully. These are the kinds of skills that we need for our for fixers. Fixers specifically. Those are the skills that fixers need. All right. I'm trying to be a little bit fast because time is going. So we've talked about how fixers think and what skills they should have, but we can be a little bit more specific. When things actually work in the real world, what makes the difference? Again, clarity of outcomes. It's not just to launch the platform, but what change are we really trying to create? All right. Respect for context. You should understand the context within which this solution you're building is going to operate, because that context may render whatever you're building absolutely useless or absolutely useful. All right. Stakeholder engagement again. When things go right on a project, always it is in alignment with stakeholder expectations. If you build something that some key stakeholders do not agree with, then definitely that will be a failed endeavor. And again, continuous feedback. We cannot ignore continuous feedback. There should be flexibility in your planning and in your execution. And then finally, it's about the people. Even in tech projects, and maybe especially in tech projects, adoption, trust for your platform, user behavior, all of these things are human. So you need to connect with the human element of your endeavor. All right. These ideas are not abstract ideas. They are patterns that show up again and again when projects are delivered correctly. These are the things you always find, regardless of the industry. All of these elements must be there before the project will be a successful one, before it will deliver value. All right. And then yeah. What kind of people do we need in the tech space? I think this is just an echo of something I've already said over and over again. We need fixers. We need fixers. We already have a lot of developers. We need more developers, that's for sure. Do we need more designers? That's for sure. But we need fixers also. People who can translate. All right, they can translate the needs of the real world to the tech people, and whatever the tech people build will be in alignment with the real world. We need navigators, people who can move through the constraints, who can move through the risk, who can move through the changing realities without losing sight of the goal. We need coordinators, people who can connect the dots across the disciplines, across departments, across teams, connect the dots across stakeholders. Coordinators also, they sit at the middle of project delivery. Everything runs through them, okay? And then we need people who listen. We need listeners before builders, people who spend time to understand the problem before they leap into creating a solution, and then strategic problem framers. What actually is broken here? What outcome matters the most to the stakeholders? That is strategic framing. When you have the answers to those questions, you are strategically framing the problem in order to understand it and then deliver the correct solution. All right. Above all, we need people who can deliver, not just build. Okay? Because building is only half of the journey. These are the fixers that I've been talking about. Okay? How do you become a fixer? Learn how delivery works, number one. All right? Read about real world projects, not just projects in tech domain alone. Read projects outside of your tech domain. Read about maybe construction projects, infrastructure projects here and there, oil and gas projects, maybe. Read about real world projects, and you would find that there is a lot you can apply in your own tech projects, that you can have that real world impact that you're looking for. Okay, talk to people, and then in your own industry specifically, it might help if you're new to fixing problems, if you're new to designing for solutions. Then you should shadow someone who has experience. All right, shadow someone as they walk through a project. That's why internships can be important. Not internships where you are basically pushing paper on behalf of companies or behalf of people, but internships where you actually are in the mix. You are seeing what is being done by the people who have the experience. That's one of the best ways to learn. All right. And again, like I said, go beyond your field. Don't stay only in your field. So I don't need to repeat that again. Practice problem framing. I've said this like on 3 or 4 different slides now, but it's because it is that important. Before solving a problem, ask the questions that give that high level understanding of what the client wants. Okay. So strategic framing, very, very important before you start solving. And then focus on outcomes, not just the outputs, right? Outputs and outcomes are not the same thing. Output is a deliverable. Outcome is an experience. How will the customer experience what you've created? All right. Focus on outcomes, not outputs. All right. And then you can ask this particular question: what will make this work? A very important question. And when you ask, don't go full scale to build complete. Build a little, test, get feedback, improve your design, build again, test and get feedback again and again and again and again. That's how you build that fixer mindset. All right. So if you are to take one idea from today, from this particular presentation, it is that you should not just build, you should fix. The world is full of people who can code, who can design, who can deploy, but the world needs more people who can solve the right problems in the right way and for the right context. Okay. That's the kind of a technologist that the future needs. That's the kind of builder that the future needs. A builder who also has the fixer mindset. Thank you.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Mr. Freeman, for that.
Thank you.
That was really impacting. Although I have a bit of, I don't know, there's not much of a question, but I just want to get clarifications on what you like the usage of being a fixer. Most of what you described as the qualities of a fixer or what a fixer does is almost synonymous to who an entrepreneur is. I know an entrepreneur is one who looks for problems and then tries to like find solutions to those problems and then make profit from that. Is it synonymous to your intended use of being a fixer?
Yeah, I can say that there are lots of intersections between the idea of a fixer and the idea of an entrepreneur. But then if we are all entrepreneurs, who would then work for who?
Exactly.
Right? Who would then work for who? With a fixer mindset, even within the context of being an employee, the problems that are cascaded down to you for you to solve. You can still approach those problems with a fixer mindset, even if you're not an entrepreneur. That's why some employers will tell you that they are looking for someone with an entrepreneurial mindset. Okay, they are not saying you should come and buy their company. They are not saying, but they want you to have that mindset for problem solving right from the start. Right from the start. Okay, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky because to have that mindset, like that entrepreneurial mindset, you need to be creative. But in large companies, really, when you come in as a fresh graduate, your freedom for creativity is limited. Your freedom for creativity is limited for large companies. So that's why you don't find a lot of breakthrough new technologies coming from the already established companies. It's usually people with this fixer mindset, with the entrepreneurial mindset, they set up their own systems and innovate from there. But when you come in as a fresh graduate into an already established structure, very often your job is to hear what you have to do and do it. Not, yes, you are given tasks and you are expected to deliver those tasks, not for you to be creative and come up with your own ideas and things like that. So if you know yourself to be that entrepreneurial, spirited kind of person, you might enter a structure, a company with a large structure, but enter with an exit plan. Enter with an exit plan, learn what you have to learn, understand how a company should run, understand how a project should run, and how it should not run also. Okay? Do you know if you work in a company that is perfect, when you set up your own, you might suffer because you do not get to learn from failures. It applies to project management as well. If you have only ever worked on projects that were outstanding successes, when your turn comes, you are likely to fail because you did not learn how to avoid failure. The most anyway, let me not try to generalize too much. My point is that even in failure, there is learning. So learn, enter with an exit plan. When you exit, you can then exercise your entrepreneurial spirit and create brand new things, that will solve problems in the real world. We've heard of
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just wanted to add that we've all heard some of the common stories where someone was working with one of the big tech companies, then left the company and set up his own company, built a product that became very big, and that old company wants to buy, right? We've heard this over and over. So work in the big company for some time, exit, and then set up your own thing. That's the way. That's what I think is the best way to proceed.
Yeah, that's true. And then a typical example is Jeff Bezos, or what's his name, the owner of Apple.
Yeah, there are many examples. Christian has something in the chat. I don't know if it's for me.
Yeah, I guess it should be for you.
Okay. He said, I guess in this generation, the hiring process at the companies, whether it's a big or startup, we should adapt to have a fixer mindset and not just. Yes, that's absolutely right, Christian. Companies themselves know that they need fixers, but then they filter out the fixers at the lowest level. They promote the people who do the things that they are told to do, right? They promote the people who do the things that they are told to do exactly according to the books. But those are not the creative people. The people who do things exactly how they are told to do, those are not the creative ones. But those are the ones that rise in typical companies. They're the ones that rise. And when they get to leadership position, like a director level, we start looking for the creativity. It's not there, right? So again, like I said earlier, it's a tricky one. You need the creativity, but then someone fresh from school is saying is creative. You cannot give the person a director role. You want the person to rise through the ranks, but your systems for rising through the ranks actually filter out the creativity, because you cannot be creative without making mistakes. You make certain mistakes in companies and you are sacked. So again, they are filtered out at the lower levels, and that's why they exit and set up their own things.
Yeah, I can relate. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That
You're
was
welcome.
very impacting. And
I appreciate it.
so to call everyone to the messages I dropped on the chat box, the link to this live stream section is on the chat box. So in case any one of us would like to rewatch this section, you can get that from the chat box. The link is sent there already. And do we have questions? I believe we should have at least one or two questions for our speakers, although they are already engaged though. Questions can come in. You can raise up your hands if you have questions, or just include it in the chat box. In 1 2 minutes, let's please signify if you have questions for the speakers.
Do we have more speakers coming after myself, or?
No. That would be all.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are officially in the question and answer period now.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I understand.
All right. Let me just throw in one more question. So the question I have is relating to ethics and responsibility. So the question goes as this: what ethical consideration should be taken into account when deploying technology to solve social issues? Like, did you sorry, let me just even engage Miss Cynthia. Miss Cynthia, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right. Can you please just take this question? For
Okay.
all right. So the
So the
question,
question,
yeah, what ethical consideration should be taken into account when deploying technology to solve social issues? I can come again if you didn't get the question.
no, I got it. So sorry, I'm a bit distracted because I'm actually driving now. So, um, when deploying technology to solve social issues, you said, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think first of all is ensuring that whatever you're deploying, right, the risk does not involve loss of human lives,
Yes.
right? Or regardless of what the benefits of whatever technology is being deployed, we always need to ensure that it does not, it's not something that would risk human life. And it's not necessarily only physical, right? But also in terms of like mental. I think that's with the generation that we are in now, is also ensuring that there's no some for instance, I'll just say social media. There's argument on like the kind of effect it's having. So whatever one is launching or deploying that has to solve social issues, you want to first of all be sure that it has no adverse effects on human lives. I think secondly would be, even though now we're seeing people come in, right, to deploy stuffs that are against regulation, and then after deploying, not necessarily against but not in line with regulation, and then after deploying you see them having sit down with the regulatory authorities to kind of like educate them on what they have deployed. So for instance, with when Uber launched or ride hailing launched in Nigeria, we deployed or was deployed, and then there was talks with the government after. But I always say that it's always good to get like regulators involved first, right? That's one thing to that's puts you at the ethical good part of deploying, ensuring that regulations or regulators are carried along with like whatever is being deployed. So I think those two things: one, no risks to human lives, and then just ensuring that like you're following the regulations of wherever you're deploying or carrying the regulators
Along.
along.
Yeah. Yes. As I can relate with that. Thank you so much for the response. And then just the last question for Mr.
Sorry.
Freeman, and then we call it. Or do you have any contribution to that, Mr. Freeman?
Yeah, I would like to add, I
Okay.
like to say that there are some levels of ethical, should I call it ethical behavior? Like Cynthia said, the very first thing, whatever you're doing, make sure that it is in alignment with the laws of the country where you are operating. The law always comes first. But then sometimes we're in situations where the law is silent. The official laws, the constitution of of the country might be silent about something. So the next thing you should consider are the policies of your organization. Okay, the policy of the organizations. Like if you work within a corporate setup, for example, then whatever you're doing should be in alignment with policies that you have set up in your organization already. And of course, your policies would include things like, you don't want to put human lives in danger. You don't want to share people's data publicly so that they can be tracked and things like that. You would have policies as a company. So align with your policy. And then, if you work in a corporate structure, for example, say you're an employee at a company and you are facing a project where, the law is silent about something, your company policy is also silent about something, what should you do next? You should look at the informal customs of the society where you are. The informal customs, all right, of the society where you are. And then those should be the top three. The top three: first, follow the law, then follow the policy of your organization, and then finally follow the customs of the place where you are. All right.
Yeah.
Finally, you can have your own personal ethics, your own personal sense of what is right and what is wrong. That is the most unreliable ethical framework that you can have. Okay, so follow the law. The law is usually very firm. Follow policy, then customs, and then your own personal sense of ethics.
Wow. All right, that's great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that addition. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
And then can you take one more question?
Okay.
All right, though you've touched this aspect already, but like you can just throw more light on it and then call it a day.
Okay.
So the question is how can we so you know that how can companies foster a culture of innovation to solve real-world problems? Like how can companies foster a culture of innovation to
If I'm
solve
to
real?
answer that in one sentence, I
Yeah.
would say tolerate failures.
Mm.
Tolerate failures in one sentence. Companies are focused on bottom line and they hate failures. They don't want
Yes.
to
Yeah.
start projects and then the project fail and then you say, oh, so all of that was for nothing. No, it wasn't for nothing. It was a learning process. It was a learning process and you discovered how not to do something and you will not repeat it the next time. All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah, I wanted to see most of these companies runs with they run with let's say on equity on debt basis.
Yes.
And they use investors' monies now to run whatever
Yes.
operations they do. Like how will they now be able to balance failure and
So
innovation also?
a company that is already running would likely, I don't know the stage of development of the company you have in mind, but if it's a company that has been around for some time, then
Okay.
definitely it already has a cash cow. It already has a cash cow, and they can maintain that cash cow while also, sponsoring innovation that are different from the cash cow. You should convince your, what they call it, your investors. I don't know how, but this is about talking to people now. But investors
Yeah.
also should be investors who understand the value of adapting. If you do not adapt to change, then you will be overtaken. There are many companies that did not do things wrong. They focused on what they were doing and they were doing it right until other companies overtook them. Nokia is an example.
Ex-
BlackBerry is an example, right? These
Yeah.
guys did not do anything wrong. Their technology was nice. It was good. But then they did not innovate and they were overtaken. So I'm saying if you are a Nokia, you already have a cash cow. You should, any up and coming technology that you hear about, of course, you cannot invest in all of them, but you can have a system for assessing new technologies, new companies for future impact, and maybe investing in them or buying them over or something. There should be a part of your company, there should be a part of your budget that goes to sponsoring innovations, whether they are in-house innovations or you are investing in other smaller startups. There should be a budget for that. That's how you can, you can maintain your cash cow while also encouraging that innovation that you're talking about and staying profitable so that you are not overtaken.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I got it. I got it. All right. I believe every other person on this call, like, God's word has
Sorry,
been
I'd just like to add something to
okay.
it. Also, I think there's a culture, and maybe for tech startups, right, is the culture of working in silos. Companies need to foster an environment where every department is talking to each other. That's one way for them to remain innovative. Whoever is doing the market research and finding out like the trends needs to be listened to. Departments should not be building on their own. I think like with organizations that we've seen become like a lot more innovative, they're having roundtables that involve everybody. So you're not building, product manager does not think this is a very great idea, goes to build and then um, goes to create, engineering builds, and then that's when they remember the sales guys and customer experience guys in terms of, well, yeah, just go and sell and then support after. So everybody should be taken along from the beginning, like when everybody's in the room to deliberate and share ideas, you always come up with very innovative ideas. So I think that's something that companies should start doing more of.
Okay. Well, yeah, I can relate with that, and that's absolutely correct. Thank you so much for the addition, Miss Cynthia. There's a question on the chat box. I don't know if Mr. Samuel Kelly still needs an answer to that question. Like, can you just signify if you still need the answer? Hello, Samuel Kelly, can you hear me? Oh, it seems he has dropped off. All right, so that's fine. So we've basically come to the end of today's in this month's edition of the ICT Career Talk, and we really appreciate you participants for taking out the time to join us, and then to the speakers also, in person of Mr. Freeman and Mrs. Cynthia, who are very good at their own respective fields. We really appreciate you taking out your time to join us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we can all like drop
Exit.
off and then cannot exit and then continue with our daily activities.
All right.
I'll be
Thank
sending
you.
an email later on, so just anticipate the email.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And then to the attendees, yes, you can all exit now and drop off. Thank you for joining. Yeah, you're welcome, Christian. You're welcome.